I moved to Toronto, probably would have been in 2009. Um, Kind of was going through a life thing where I was trying to figure out, I guess, who I was or what I wanted, and being back home with a bunch of people I don't know, I guess I feel like didn't understand me. I just didn't understand certain things that I was going through, and I wanted to find community.
I definitely didn't plan it out as much as I should have. Basically, within a 2-week period, I had decided I was going to make the leap from my hometown, and I was just going to go for it. I was really hoping to meet like-minded people in music, and I really wanted to meet other queer girls and to get out of my hometown mentality that had been instilled in me my whole life, basically. And I felt like the only way I could do that was if I left the nest.
So I packed up and flew to Toronto. It was early February, and I had found a bunch of roommates that I'd never met before on Craigslist, and I booked a flight and flew. It was the first time I was ever on a plane.
The first job I was able to find in Toronto was basically, through someone I knew working for an adult dating website. So right off the bat, I just ended up finding myself in these strange, sex-related jobs, and it just worked for me. And then I finally found a job working at an office, which is just a normal job, just working as a secretary, and things seriously felt like they were going well for a while until I just started running out of money.
I got there by myself with 2 pieces of luggage, because that was all I could take on the plane with me to move. And I got dropped off at this house, and one of my roommates came and was like, "Oh, hey, you're the new guy," and brought me to my room, and went up to his room and shut his door, and I sat by myself in Toronto completely alone. All I guess for the first 2 months that I was living in the city.
So I found a second job, and things started to finally pick up.
I knew that I wanted to find community, but I guess I really didn't have any idea of where I was looking or where to find it. So I spent a lot of time alone for the first year that I was here. It wasn't until a year later I met a friend shooting a short film that happened to also be gay, and we started to actually really hit it off and talk and became really close friends. And it was kind of at that point where he started to introduce me to the gay lifestyle in Toronto that I actually started to find, a sense of community for the first time. I went to parties with, 20-something gays like me, which I had never really had the chance to do in Nova Scotia because I was so closeted at the time.
I've definitely been on the verge of homelessness before. In the past, I had been sharing a 1-bedroom apartment with a girl that I had met online. My uncle was renting to me. I was having trouble making rent, and he decided he wanted to renovate the place, so he'd asked us to leave.
So it was just, it was nice. It was nice, especially after spending so much time in Toronto alone and just kind of thinking. You have a lot of time to think when you're alone.
I couldn't exactly go home because I wasn't welcome there. As well as I had already established a life for myself in Toronto. I had established my group of friends. I had a job at the time. I couldn't go back to my hometown and just be one of those boomerang kids that didn't make it in the city and had to run back to mom and dad. That just wasn't an option for me. So I wanted to do everything I could to hold on to the life that I made for myself.
It was probably January of 2013, so this year. I had just gotten back from being out east. I had quit my job to go home for a month to kind of take care of things. We had a health scare at home with my mom. And so when I got back, I was living with one of my best friends, Katie, and I was unemployed and kind of hadn't seen anybody in Toronto for a while and didn't have I guess a whole lot of people that I was super close with. And I came home one night to our landlord telling us that they were going to be doing renovations to the unit upstairs. So for a week, we would have to go stay somewhere else.
So by chance, I ended up meeting with an old friend, and I was set to be out of my apartment in a week, and I didn't know where I was going to go. And it just so happened that she was going away for the summer and told me, "Hey, you can sublet my room." So then I ended up getting to stay in a beautiful house, and then it wasn't until, a couple months into living there that I lost my job, and I was terrified to lose it, because I finally found a place in Toronto that I actually felt like was a home to me, and I wanted to do anything that I could to hold on to it.
I was seeing somebody at the time, so I could go stay at their place for a week.
And in the past I had sexual related jobs, such as the adult dating website, even though it was more, in a tech environment and less, actually doing sex work. I thought, hey, maybe this is a business opportunity here.
It was me and my cat Fuzz. We ended up going to my boyfriend's place at the time. He was living with 2 girls and 2 cats, so the house was already pretty full. But we figured it would only be for a week, so we went. And a week of renovations turned into 2 weeks of renovations, turned into a flood above my unit that destroyed pretty much everything that I owned and rendered me homeless.
So I decided to post my first ad on Craigslist. I said, you know what? I heard girls sell their underwear online. I can do this. This is easy.
But my boyfriend and his roommates were gracious enough to let me stay there for another week or so until things got figured out.
I realized it was surprisingly lucrative, and then I started getting more into BDSM, and I thought, you know what? I feel like I can make good money if I did more than sell underwear. Maybe I can find a sugar daddy. Maybe I can find a dude to financially dominate.
Unfortunately, I couldn't really figure anything out. I wasn't working at the time. I didn't have any family in the city that I could go stay with. I didn't really have any money or good enough credit to go find a new place to live, so I was stuck in the situation where I was living with my boyfriend at the time, and I couldn't leave. And it was uncomfortable because I know his roommates didn't really want me there.
At first I felt super powerful, and like I'm making all this money, and I barely have to do anything for it, which is great. But after a while, I just got too comfortable with the money, and it just started getting more and more intense, and it just wasn't fun anymore. But all the while, I was trying to find a new job, and just nothing was happening. Like, I just could not find a job for the life of me. So literally, without doing that, I have no idea how I would be able to come up with rent. Like, for 2 months straight, I was able to come up with my rent within 3 days before it was due. Like, of course, that was going to be the more appealing decision than, trying to find a minimum wage job at a coffee shop.
It was scary. It was isolating, and was the most alone I'd felt, I think, since I'd first moved to the city.
It was almost like I had a weird straight alter ego as this sex worker vixen, and they believed me. They believed that I loved it, and they believed that I was straight, and it worked. Being mixed race as well, I mean, a lot of people don't want to hire a colored sex worker. So I thought, you know what, maybe I can play with this a little bit. Maybe I can pass for white.
So it was hard, but I got through it. I don't know.
I seriously think that's what kept me afloat for so long. I was able to construct these alter egos and basically play with my sexuality and my race in a way that it was almost unreal. It was like, I am just a completely different person to these people, and this is what's helping me make money. I definitely wouldn't be where I am right now, and I wouldn't have the things that I had, like, if I hadn't made that tough decision. And I do feel like that chapter of my life is definitely over, and I think I'm definitely retiring from sex work. But I mean, I finally found a job, and I'm excited for what happens next, and to move forward.